Okay. Go back to that slide. So kitchen and bathrooms, they obviously make a home. They really assist to sell a home. But the unfortunate part is they're expensive to do. They're expensive to renovate also. It's one of our projects there with the before and after of a bathroom space that we did in Toowong. So for those people renovating, why are you renovating? Is it because of appliances are past their use by, kitchens, cabinets are falling apart, update the look? Anyone? All of the above? That's it. Or for more storage. So often when we're renovating, we should also look at some of your lifestyle factors. Whether you want some seating for guests, storage for small appliances, create homework areas, or drop zones for mobile phones. These are all things that we can coordinate into kitchen designs. You'll see down the bottom, another one of our designs, a before and an after. So one thing I'd say to everyone is to create a brief. And even if it's just for yourself, to create a brief. So, you know, give a few little sentences on your personality, your lifestyle, your personal tastes, the overall look and feel that you want to achieve. You might have some health and religious requirements in a kitchen design, specific storage needs, likes and dislikes, your type of cooking, because that can affect the appliances that you might choose. Create a needs list and create a wants list. Who's done that while they've gone through this process? A few people? It's also a good document that you can reference back to with the desired outcome. This is something that we use in our design process that really helps us fish out some information. Everyone's very different, you know, so what necessarily worked over here won't work for this particular couple or these particular people. You'll see on the left-hand slide, you know, different height people, for instance, in a space. So you might want a movable bench space that can come down to 900 high or up to 950 or up to 1 metre to cater for all different heights of people. Obviously, wheelchair requirements requires different bench heights, different requirements. So it's always good to put together a brief. Also really good to establish a budget. Come on in. It's all right. And jot down some amounts against these. You know, for instance, design fees and expert advice, council approvals. How much are they going to cost? If so, are they required? In some instances, they're not required. Fixtures and fittings, appliances, your cabinets, bench tops and splashbacks, your licensed sub-trades, and any project management fees. A lot of the people who are building, this is what your builder will take care of, is a lot of these things. Other considerations for embarking on a renovation. So it might be timing. Those people who are renovating, they plan on living through the renovation? Yes. The mess, the noise, the dust.
We don't enjoy it.
So how long will it take? You know, some people might move out during the renovation. Obviously, it can be quite dusty, or all the rooms might be affected. And we do a lot of interior fit outs in apartments, so you know it makes it very hard for people to live through those. Your desired look. Have you all considered your adjoining spaces? Will the changes in your kitchen affect the rest of their home? Often I see people focus just in one area, but then they don't give consideration to how all the rest of the spaces flow with the rest of the room. And do you have any structural or technical restrictions? So can you remove a wall? You know, often we think just in this one space, but when we do take consideration to all those adjoining rooms, it can often become a little bit bigger renovation because it might open up the home. You know, often a lot of the older style homes are still individual rooms, rather than new homes today are open plan. Often, they don't marry up. So that might be your brief and that might be your budget. But there is some, often you can meet in the middle. So we're going to do a little kitchen case study today. So this is a project that we've done. Has anyone been to our presentations before? No? We have one person. I'm going to talk a little bit about the space. So this is a kitchen, of course. This is the before shot, single room, U-shaped kitchen, fridges and appliances on this left-hand side. Very cramped, hard to cook in, little bench space. I don't know how that one got in there. So this is before, just to show you the room. So the kitchen's behind that wall. You've got this really large area over here. You've got this really large area over on the left-hand side. Another shot internal. Who likes the green? The green metallic. That's our after of the same shot. Now I'm going to talk how we achieved that. So that's an overview of the space. Kitchen up in that top left-hand corner. The stairs are down here where the little blue lines are down the bottom. So you come up from the lower level. Our clients wanted to open, they loved to cook. They had very little bench space. They wanted to modernise their appliances, update their appliances. That's one of the first things. They wanted some more bench space, more drawer storage. They wanted some storage for their small appliances. They loved to entertain. Their family could grow quite quickly. They'd have a lot of people come and visit. So they could go from 4 people to 12 very, very quickly in the home and on a regular basis. So the first thing that we came up with, we actually came up with 2 options. This was our option 1 for that space. That isn't what we did, but this is our option 1. So what we did up the top here, we left that wall in, tried to utilise the existing sink location. So some of the services, obviously, to try to keep some costs down. So over in that top left-hand corner, that was going to become an appliance pantry, or a little butler's pantry, or a scullery, or with sliding doors to the rest of the kitchen. We had some refrigeration over here. We're going to utilise the previous fridge over in that space. We had this massive island bench and this table, this offshoot table where guests could come and linger, and there's still this other big area over here. We had to run some new plumbing because the plumbing wasn't in the existing location. We had to run new services for hot plate and things like that. Now we got all the way through the costing part, and then it came back with a number that scared us all, including our clients. It does show that, sometimes it will come to the services and the relocation of the services that made this unaffordable, this space. So I had to go away and quickly look at some alternatives. And this is the alternative that we came back with, was to keep this particular space as is. There's a big long dining table over there. We actually cut this wall back, opened up the space, put a big long island in the middle, and then extended down to a little booth seat down in the far end. From this bottom end here, you could get some views to the river. Small views, but views they were, just to try to take advantage of that space. That's just a detailed shot of the whole space before our production. That was our 3D render for the project. So a 3D render is done in CAD, and that is our proposed drawing of that project before we started. If anyone wants to jump in the room here, we can. I apologise to the people online. We can't take the questions from you, but if anyone wants to jump in and maybe ask some questions as we go, happy to take a few questions. I can't take a heap. We've got all these people online, so but I will be at the end. I can take a lot of questions. So that was our proposed drawing for the space. I won't show that one. We can send HTML links in our software where you can actually rotate that whole kitchen in your own home. You don't necessarily need the software, our software, to go able to do it, but you can zoom around, zoom through and do fly-throughs, and I won't show you that just at the moment. So we come back to that. That was the space with the wall. And I'm going to take you through some of the steps involved and the different things. So I'm starting to strip down the wall frames. Down in that far corner, there is actually a structural post. So we started, we did know about that up front, and I'll talk about something later in the design, why it was actually incorporated into the space. So what we did, we knocked out that wall and we had to put a structural beam right in on the end of the island. But we still wanted to keep that openness. Now, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to flick back between a few things. That structural post actually incorporates in one of those columns. Two of them are decorative, and one of them is actually structural. I was trying to make a feature out of something rather than try to hide it. Often when you're doing things, it can be very difficult. Just to wake everyone up, or normally have this very loud, but it was just to show that things can be very dusty, very dirty, when you start to cut plumbing locations and things like that in projects. And a lot of people expect it to be perfectly clean, but reality is it is going to be, we've all seen the block and things these days. Unfortunately, they take a lot longer than a week, that what you see on the block. That's just walls. Just to show you part of the project, so your cabinet manufacture. When you're doing your kitchen, the cabinets are actually manufactured off-site, and then they're bought in. So that's our workshop. Cabinets are manufactured and then they're bought in. So we do a lot of the structural changes first. Then we do the cabinet installation, then you do benchtop installation, and I will touch on that later in, as far as the process goes. Yeah, so they're all fully built. So the time frames that you see the cabinet makers on site are actually very small compared to the whole project in a renovation, depending on what you're doing, whether you're moving walls or things. Just another shot of cabinet installation. So those cabinets are taken from site, installed in your home. That is actually a new house. Plastering still be done. That's waiting on its bench tops to be measured. Another particular project where we've put steel inside a bench top. It's not the same project, but in actual fact, the bench top on the cantilevered island bench in the project that we're talking about, we've had to create ways on how do we make a bench top float by a metre. So we've had to embed steel inside the bench top substrate so that we can meet all the warranties, you know, by a lot of the suppliers and things like that, and the bench tops don't crack. So that's our cabinets installed. Our substrates over there, I don't know whether I've got a little pointer. I should get a little pointer for the people at home. There we go. So that's this bench top that has the steel embedded in it. So that's a white box, and it's waiting to be cladded with its bench top material for support. So during those in a renovation, we tried to do a few other things while we're waiting on bench tops. That can take between 7 and 10 working days for your bench tops. So your cabinets get installed, and then 7 to 10 working days for bench tops. So we might do painting of the project. We might do part electrical fit-offs and things like that. Just so it's not sitting around. It gets really, really frustrating from a customer point of view where you can see it, you can touch it, but you can't use it. Just a closer look at the columns. I think I've done the bench top, so this is bench top installation. So this is the bench top with the cantilever, and I'll show you that a little bit later on. To the finished project. So lighting makes a huge difference to any project. In this particular project, we have lighting around all the toe recesses. We have lighting around all the bench tops. We have task lighting to your bench tops. So all this is accent lighting underneath, and then we also have the task lighting up the top. These columns also enabled us to bring some cabling over, be able to put some power points on that island. Again, that's that back space. So this is the cantilever bench top. You can see it a little bit better there. Pretty big difference to the space, isn't it? On the bench top, on the doors here, are actually Polytech. This is actually a Polytech product on these doors. One of the new finishes. In here, these are cedar stone bench tops, 20 mil thick. And then we've tied it in with some porcelain bench tops, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on, what the new porcelain bench tops are. Yeah, so it's a combination of materials and finishes.
What's the timber at the top cabinets?
These posts?
No, the cabinets. Is that a timber look?
That is a timber look. That is not a veneer, so that is only laminate, that kitchen.
Yeah.
So it is amazing what you can do with laminate finishes these days.
What do you do appliances? The oven and steam problem?
There is a warming drawer, a little small warming drawer in there, a steamer there, and a oven. Might be two warming drawers in there. I'll have to have a closer look. But a lot of your appliances these days, these are Neff appliances. They're all designed to line up and look like one oven. So they've all got, you can add, they're pretty uniform in heights that you can put a steam oven and a small warming drawer together with a single oven. What are the differences can come down to the cavity size inside the ovens too, so the literage inside. Just another shot. So with the way that we work as a business with Sublime or Kim Duffin Design is that we have a 5-step design process. So our first is initial consultation and design survey, where we'll come out to site, we'll assess your space, have a look, we'll ask you those questions, we'll try to get some of those, we'll try to develop our own brief very early on in the piece, ask us some questions about how you cook. We have a questionnaire too that flushes a little bit of that information out. And we have engagement of our design services, concept presentation and design development, colour selections and specifications, and then we have an on-site trade meeting down the bottom. That's when we've come right down through the design. We have a plan in place. We know that we're moving these appliances. We know that we're moving the electrical here. We know that we're moving the plumbing here. And then our trades can actually come through and have a fresh look at the project. And then they go away and they give me a fixed price. So we know exactly how much things are going to cost prior, rather than having a guesstimate of the trades. And then they turn up, and I've guessed 2,000 and they turn up and they go, it's 4,000. Or often when we're changing things too, I'm not a plumber and I'm not an electrician. And it gives the plumbers and electricians a chance to go, hey, Kim, you haven't thought about that, or we need to think about that, because we might be able to then, but sometimes we have to go back in here to make a few design changes that stem out of some things that come from our trades. You'll notice that up the top, it's all about the design and the colours are down the bottom. And we really want people to look at how they're going to function in that space, how you're going to cook, your storage, whether you've got enough drawer space, and then the layer of fixtures and finishes come right at the end. So a kitchen renovation timeline. Apologise for the people that are building. It is tailored a little bit towards renovation. So in a renovation timeline, so you've got the design process that is up here. That is just as important as this process down here. So contract documents, payment of QBCC insurance, then there'll be a check measure, manufacture of joinery, demolition, structural changes, if any, electrical, plumbing and rough-ins, plastering, delivery of cabinets, installation of cabinets, check measure of bench tops. And as I mentioned earlier, 10 working days, wait, often we might get painting for your bench tops to be installed, plumbing fit-offs, electrical fit-offs, site cleans, and then project handover. They are all steps that you can coordinate yourself if you wanted to. We actually take the stress and hassle out of all of that and take care of all of that for everybody. Trends in lighting. I'm just going to touch on some trends. So lighting, I mentioned earlier about lighting in projects, and lighting is, to me, makes or breaks a project. You know, today, you know, I grew up with a light behind my head that created a shadow over the sink. You know, I couldn't see what I was doing. Who is that familiar to people here? Yeah, yep, because that's pretty much a lot of homes today. So a good kitchen design or bathroom design, or any project for that matter, should have good lighting. This is a great example of LED technology today and how lights can affect the overall look and feel. So that's the old warm light. So that one's designed to mimic the incandescent light bulb. Most lights these days are LED, even bulbs if you're going to go in and start to renovate. We see a lot of people changing their lighting. The light that we use for our ceiling lights they're a tri-light. So you flick a switch on the side and you can have any one of these colours. So if you do actually make a mistake or you want to change it, you can actually pop the lights out and flick a switch. So that's the warm, that's the neutral, and that's the cool. Very different, isn't it? You'll see one of my little tips up the top that the cool light's often brighter and more appropriate for vision impaired. It's actually, the cool light's designed to mimic daylight. Large feature pendants we're starting to see incorporated into kitchens up here. These are actually from Europe. I'll actually give a little credit down the bottom to the people who have designed and manufactured these. Big round pendants. Really designed to feature areas within the project. You could have one feature light over a table and then recessed down lights over the rest of the island. You could have the traditional 3 if you really wanted to. We see it a lot, but you can have clusters of lights also. I'll put this project in because it just shows, you're probably not going to have it in your space, but it just shows how someone's thought about something. So this is a company over in Italy. You'll just see the V's and how the V's clone in certain spots. You've got a V up here, you've got a back V. There's even a little one down there on the toe recess. And they've also cleverly put the lighting, so they're actually creating line within that space also. That's creating a few things from actually enhancing the design element. So like everything these days, a lot of things can be multi, you know, like appliances, for instance, we have a combination microwaves. You know, a light can enhance the design, create accent, create task lighting. There's so many different functions that certain things can do. That's just your toe recess lighting underneath the spaces. and just a different shot. Again, creating some line. Okay, I'll flick through that one. Just going to show you one of our projects again. This is a before. And this is a after. They're very different. We pulled out that centre wall and that's about it in there. Tidied up the carpet, tidy up those bulkheads and just remove the old kitchen. But you'll see the recessed toe kits. This is designed to make this island feel floating. You've got a fell mat range hood incorporated over. The range hood's actually incorporated into this section over the island bench. This cabinet on the back wall doesn't attach here. It actually wraps with mirror. That's all about certain elements in the project that all link together to create an overall end result. The timber bench top, the live edge timber bench top just softens the harsh porcelain edges. All of these cupboards are actually clad with porcelain. So one large big tile, and I'll talk about that later on. So you'll see, not only does the range hood provide it extracts the exhaust, but also provides task lighting to this bench top. So one of the other trends that we're starting to see is UCS surfaces, ultra compact surfaces. And when you talk, you might hear people talk about porcelain bench tops. I've just talked about it before through those two projects. Basically, it's one big, large porcelain tile. So we've had the quartz bench tops that have been around for a long time. So what it's doing is it's taking quartz, glass, porcelain, and heating them and crushing them under immense pressure and immense temperature to create basically a large porcelain tile. Really extremely tough surfaces. And again, back onto this project, all of these bench tops and doors are actually clad in this porcelain product. So it's not a laminate, it's not a two-pack, but it's actually a big top.
The actual porcelain component?
So yeah, that's
not a door or partly porcelain?
Yeah, no, that's a good question actually. So the question for the people at home was how thick the bench tops or the product of the porcelain,
Or the doors?
the doors as well. So doors for so bench tops for warranty purposes need to be 12 mil, minimum of 12. That comes in 12 and it also comes in 20. Can be mitered down the front edge also to make it look thicker. For the door materials, these products are available in 3, 6, 8, 12 and 20, depending on what brand and depending on what company. So in this particular project, it's only 3 mil to really reduce the weight impact on a door. Obviously, when you're sliding a door in and out, if you put too much weight on it, it's going to be really heavy and want to drop. So the draw front is actually calculated in part of the kilo rating on what the drawers can take. So your drawers these days, it can take up to about 75 kilos, depending on what your oil runners and what type and which one you actually have. So
door front and drawer fronts are only 3 mil thick?
There's a 16 mil substrate,
Right.
and then there's a 3 mil glue adhered to that. Yeah.
And the edging covers the two.
And then the edging covers the two. That's right. There's some new hinges available on the market that can be used into 8 mil thick doors or 6 mil thick doors. So you don't have to have that additional substrate on the back. These are all technologies that are coming out of Europe. We are a little bit behind with those. We've used these special hinges a little bit this year for some projects that we're working on.
So do you purchase the product with the cladding on the 16 mil substrate, or do you put it onto the?
No, it's a combination of people. So it's actually would actually be the cabinet maker who would do the
Yeah, that's what
substrate.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Do they do the joining of the two, or does it come as a product?
Yeah, so how it would be done, so you got the substrate, and then the stonemason will do the cladding,
Right.
and then the stonemason will actually clad that product onto the substrate. That's a combination of people.
Well.
And then edge the door as well. Yeah, so that's a combination of people.
Right.
That is changing. There's an aluminium frame that can go around those two, so you can buy those as a special product if you wanted to. Again, just Laminem is one of the products. So there's a couple of companies that do it. Laminem, which is done by Ace Stone and Ace Tiles. Neolith is another one. Decton is another one of the products. Caesar Stone, I think, are going to do one of those porcelain bench tops going forward. The bath width in this project is one tile, 3 meters long by 1350 wide. So you don't have any joins. You don't have any grout joins to clean. And it is mitered and pattern matched down that front edge.
I looked at doing this.
Yes.
And the tiler took no responsibility whatsoever for those tiles. So I may have bought them, but if he broke that tile, I had to pay to replace it.
We don't get tilers to do it for that reason. We actually get our stonemasons to do it. There's a few guys out there that do it, and they do it really well, and that's what they specialize in. Like any new product, it's hard for people to, I suppose, to take on board and to think outside the square as to what they used to do. And so we have just get our stonemasons to do it. I think it'll eventually get to the point that tilers do it. We're training, I'm actually training our tiler at the moment to do it. But yeah, it is a beautiful product though. And I think it will take on as it gets momentum like anything. Caesar Stone, when it first entered the market, all the granite companies went, oh, why would you have that? And look where that product is now. So,
What's the cost comparison?
it is very expensive at the moment. Like anything when it comes into the marketplace, it needs to come down, like anything. It's really hard to tell because it comes down to how many slabs and how much you're doing. So if you're doing something like that,
I mean, bench tops. What's the cost comparison?
I actually couldn't tell you, to be honest, the price comparison. It's hard to tell because it comes down to how much can come out of a slab. Yeah, the labour factor, I can say, is a lot more expensive than the Caesar Stone at the moment because it is quite fiddly, and they've actually made almost a product that's indestructible. You know, you can actually hit that with an angle grinder, and then a lot of the paraphernalia and things like that, you can cut on it, it's heat resistant. You can hit it with an angle grinder, they scratch it with a screwdriver, and it won't scratch. Hence, it's a really hard product to manufacture. Hence, the manufacturing cost is very expensive at the moment. And the more people that take on and the more people that train in how to do it, that labour factor on how to manufacture and install it will come down.
Does that have a gloss finish or is it a dull finish?
You can get gloss, matte, all various types, yeah. That's a bathroom that we've done. You know, we actually ordered the project from the tiles from Spain for that one to be able to do that project. There's only, I think, 10 or 12 tiles in that on the walls. So it's all seamless, all the joins. You don't have those ugly joins to clean.
So with those suspended units that you put against the walls, how do you support them? What kind of bracketry or bolting do you use to hold it up there? So
the backs are glued and screwed.
Sorry?
The backs are glued and screwed.
Yeah, to the cabinet.
To the cabinet. The bench top to be floating has some inbuilt brackets that are built in right back in construction. The cabinets, we don't actually put any brackets in, but the LED substrate screws to the wall, and then the cabinet screws to the LED substrate. So in that instance, it wasn't required to have a bracket, but you are right. Sometimes when you're doing floating cabinets like that, you may need to bring some brackets out of the wall to help suspend them or underneath where you can't see them. All about the planning. It's like anything. You can't get to that point and go, how am I going to suspend my vanity? You know, it needs to be planned right back here. Another one of our projects, you'll see this is the difference between the vanities down there, the little gap. As I said, that bench top is suspended. That's a product called Duffin, the most popular colour that they sell globally. It's just really different and really striking. One thing that I've seen is hobbless cooking. So gas burners, and it's just single hot plates. And you can actually position those in different configurations depending on what you want. And you can buy singles and spread them apart, but really super easy to clean. So we're starting to think about gas tops. You know, for a long time it's been induction. I'm going to show you an induction one in a minute. Integrated induction cooking. So this is a porcelain benchtop with the hot plate incorporated underneath it. And I'm going to show you a video on this one. This technology is here, and it's available in Brisbane. I actually haven't even costed it, so I can't tell you how much the cost is. Cook it directly on their bench top. No hot plate. The hot plate actually melts underneath. Super easy to clean, just like wiping down the bench top. Yeah, they're the ones that can take the heat. Yeah. Probably we stopped tonight, but yes. It's like the induction hot plates that a lot of people have today. They're not new technology, they've been around for a long time. Just that the price has now come down. So you've just got a plastic box on. It's induction again. It's inducting the pot so they could actually, cut up the rest of the side. I think the cat comes over in a minute. I don't know how I do that. Hidden storage. A lot of things these days, we all want to hide them. So hidden storage in this splashback here. It has actually some mirror doors that slide up behind. And when they shut down, it's like little baby appliance cupboards. So you can pull all these small appliances forward and use them. Often in spaces, we have heaps of space in width, but you may not have enough length. We all have these small appliances these days. So we try to incorporate where we can. That bench top over that back is 900 deep because we had heaps of width in the kitchen when we were designing it. So we could actually build these splashback, splashback appliance cupboard, literally. Yeah. And I'll show it to you down. So when they're all shut up, it just becomes mirror. We do some with that slide also. The slide ones are actually a little bit easier to do than those ones. There's some counterbalances in those, like sash windows in old houses, that actually make those work. So hidden storage. So just behind this cupboard here, this little splashback slides out. You see some spices and things like that. A really simple storage idea, really easy to access. And this is behind the hot plate again, sauces and oils, spices. And so it's about, I suppose, trying to use those every little skerrick and differently, rather than just a drawer or just a pantry. And I think this one is just a little video. So it just slides in there and tucks away. Open plan en-suites. Those like people who are building, anyone with an open plan en-suite? One person? Two? Three? Okay, great. Great. So they really are your private space. You know, the space away from the kids, and it's a private area. Why do we need to tuck it behind a wall? You know, where we can open that up and take a wall out. This is a project that I showed for those people when they came in and seen the time lapse. This is the project there. So behind this bed is where all the ensuite, I might talk about it a little bit later on. That's the before in this space. That's a little shot that I've put on there. That is a blank wall, but behind that wall is where that bathroom is. Locked in there. You cannot get any natural light in that room whatsoever. You walk in this door, in here, there's a wardrobe. There's a small door between the wardrobe and then into the ensuite. Complete darkness through the day in there. That's what we finished with in that space. Utilising all the existing ceiling heights. Plenty of light, plenty of natural light also. Toilet's still enclosed up in the back corner in a separate room. That's the only thing that's actually still separate. The natural light comes in from the side. Now from the front, at the front there's actually a marina that has natural light come in, so it comes around that wall and actually back into the ensuite. The trends in summary that I sort of see, and it's not necessarily colour trends, large format porcelain surfaces or UCS, lighting was up the top, hidden storage, hobless cooking, and open plan en-suites. So I'd just like to thank the sponsors of today, the Caesar Stone, Polytech, Brisbane Appliance Sales, and Headache for the sponsors. For those of you who want to stay, if you want to see a little bathroom, I think I can explain this one project, run this video and explain this for you on that bathroom project if you'd like to hear it. So, who'd like to hear it?
Yes.
Really shows a project from start to finish. Unfortunately, it's a bathroom. But you see earlier in the piece, we've got out all the walls. Right in there is where there's just a bathroom. This is the wall in the centre coming through. It's a half wall that's at the back here. This is where the shower comes out. There's no glass in this ensuite at all. Bath room.
Like Steve.
Yes. Is there one?
Yeah.
Yes, there is. Yes. Yeah. Directly above, it's actually just out beyond the shower. So as I said, there's no glass in the shower.
Yeah.
The shower's actually come out of a half wall. So there's absolutely no glass to clean. But often we sit and we think, well, why do we need a shower in a glass cubicle that we've got to clean? That's really hard to clean. If we can direct the shower heads to where we want the water to run, think about our runoff of elbows and things like that. You can have these open areas, and that's what I sort of see with these open en-suites. So you come in, I mean, we are in Queensland, we've got a beautiful climate, 95% of the time. A little bit different if we're down south, but a lot of them have also air conditioners and things built in as well. But yes, we do have exhaust extraction. Some people are concerned, obviously, with the clothes being so close. So
The shoes.
the shoes.
Multi-shoes.
That's it. That's it. So yeah, I mean, it comes down to planning those good extractions and things like that. Yeah, yeah. Anyone have any questions at all?
So the big trend of having 2 showers.
Yes.
Who really has enough water pressure to run 2 showers at the same time and not have an open?
It's actually a really interesting question too, because often when you're doing a bathroom renovation, for instance, depending on how old the project is, they didn't have water savers back then, which reduced pressures. So the pressure in a lot of the tapware is limited to 500 kPa now. So when you start to put 2 shower heads in, even without pressure issues within the house, they're limited on the pressure anyway. That's actually one of the big questions that we have. People ask us, they go, well, we had better water pressure before. What have you done? And it's all it comes down is the selections of the appliances and the fixtures and fittings. But if you don't limit them to 500 kPa, you haven't got a warranty. So it's really hard. It's all about water restrictions and trying to reduce how many litres per minute, because there's wells rating on tapware. So you see there's a watermark and then there's a wells rating. And wells ratings tell you how many stars and how many litres per minute that they have. So it's an interesting question.
So do they work?
Do they work or not? I haven't got any feedback that comes back. Our issues are probably more stemmed around the drainage if they're run both at once. Because again, a shower head here and a shower head here, this one might dump 23 litres a minute, 23 litres a minute. You've got to have a waste that can take 50 odd litres a minute. So it's more around that than pressure. The pressure is going to be pretty much set these days by the manufacturer of the tapware.
Well, it's kind of interesting that everyone's against thinking about cleaning the glass, cleaning this and everything else, and then you've got 2 showers there, so you've got his and her showers. You've got now 2 showers to and you haven't got the pressure to use it together anyway.
Yes, yes, but if you can limit the glass, you don't have any glass to clean. So it is, at home I have, when my garden sprinklers come on, my shower pressure reduces. Yeah, so I do get what you're saying. That's it. That's it. Any other questions at all?
So if you have like the double showers, like what you're talking about, the 2 showers, and you have one that would have the wardrobe on the other side of the wall, is that a bad idea to have a wardrobe on the opposite side to your?
Look, it comes down whether you're going to put doors on it, whether you want it open. There's all these things to think about, and every space is different. I personally, with good extraction, I think that can be overcome by planning those sort of things in, or whether that's going to be a concern. But it all comes down to the planning and thinking about, okay, we're going to have this here close to the shower. What can we do to avoid steam and things like that? So, yeah.
Yeah, but like in terms of if you had a shower mixer fail or something like that, or plumbing fail.
Not really. It's actually probably a better thing because you can come in through the wardrobe side to swap it, from the front side. A lot of them you can't, once you've tiled them in, you can't actually access them. The cartridges will go. So that's one good thing when you're looking at tapware selections and things, that you look, don't get Chinese stuff, get good quality, good branded tapware, because then we'll be able to get spare parts that can be changed, like the cartridges can be changed from the front later if you have any issues. Serena just wanted to...
Yeah, just like to ask, I have a question.
I have a question from someone online, but someone online also asked if you could just repeat the question if you get a question from the audience because I can't hear.
Sure.
But I have a question here from Claire saying that we are planning a home extension where we will open up a wall to one side of our kitchen and extend out the other side. I'm interested in keeping some of the cabinets from this, from a sustainability and cost perspective. Do you have any advice on this?
Any price?
Any advice?
Any advice on cabinets to keep them? Claire, it really depends on how old they are, the cabinets, and without looking at them, how deteriorated they are. The lifespan of a kitchen, by some of the suppliers, I've done a lot of researches and things, are sort of 11 to 14 years, really, for a kitchen. If they're well made, you'll get a lot longer than that, but I would probably say not to keep the cabinets. I would say to redo the cabinets, because then all your warranties and things like that can start. One thing you don't want to do is to renovate and you've got everything new over here and new around here, and then this fails for a little bit more money. You can do it all properly to start with.
There's another question here. For a kitchen, how do we know if we need council approval?
As a rough rule of thumb, if you need a council approval, it's more of a building approval that you're going to need. So if you're looking at changing any structural walls, the average kitchen renovation doesn't need any approvals. It just comes down whether you're actually changing any major walls, and then you'll need a building approval. Yes.
Are there any kitchens that are made from products that don't swell? Like we actually,
Yes.
Our kitchen at the moment is the water has got into it due to a leakage in the dishwasher and a few other issues, and it's swelling and busting up, and that's what's
The question is about kitchen
but are there any kitchens that actually aren't made from a chipboard style product?
Okay. So the question was, are there any products that are made to be waterproof, pretty much,
Yeah.
and not made from chipboard? And the answer is yes, and readily available on the market. So there's a product called Diacell. That's just one of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. A lot of the companies now sell waterproof foam. There's extruded foam board. So certainly all your internal carcasses can be waterproof. Often it comes down to looking at a cost scenario. So those products are about $40 to $50 a square metre, and the chipboard is about $12. So there is certainly going to be a cost impact there. We use that product in our exterior barbecues, where you might have the wet area impact outside. So you've got those impacts, but certainly there is those products available at the moment. There's also some thickened laminates that are used for toilet partitions that can be modified to be used inside. They can also be quite expensive. The Diacell product or the extruded foam products are actually probably on the cheaper side of things. Yes.
If we come into Sublime with our plans,
Yes.
to get to the point where, say, on the kitchen, you say, right, this is what it's going to cost you. So you've got to go and do the design and then you cost it. Is there a cost to get to that stage?
Yes, yes. So the question was, if you come into Sublime with your plans, is there a cost to get to a point that you've got a cost for your project? So in other words, to go through our design process, how much is that cost? So we charge $297 for a site visit and $19.80 for a design. So we have a standard flat fee per room, and the $297 actually comes off of that design fee. So that initial site visit starts that process. So you'll get to the end, and it might take 2, 3, 4 months, depending on how long you can, how long it takes between changes and things like that. Obviously, it's a consultative process. We're not a wham bam, here you go, this is what you're going to get. It's about working with yourselves very closely to meet your needs and your ideas. It's not all about my ideas, it's a combination of ideas to get to an end process or to an end result. So yeah, 1980 effectively is the answer to the question. If you do want a site visit at $297 and say you don't like what I say, there's no obligation to go ahead at that point. So.
I just want to inquire the cost of the point pods.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
The point pods are a PowerPoint. You've got to touch it. Electronic. So you just touch them, electronic, and they come up. The beauty of that product is that the only product on the market where you can actually put and match your bench top into the top. So you can cut a sleeve out, put it into the top. The answer to the question was how much was the point pods, depending on which one they are. I believe they're roughly around $550 to do them.
And are they sealed to prevent the passage of water down them?
So they're IP44 when they're down, and they're IP28 when they're up. The other thing is when they are up, the sockets are the switch. So they're closed. The top, the red and the black actually has a closed little thing that comes over the top. So they do not operate until you push the plug in. Yeah. Yes.
I mean, the process of building a house and in my ensuite, I use a very standard design. I see that we have a tub like in the ensuite. But the personal preference I understand, but I've said that I could be hardly use the tub, so it's a working tub. But we have a tub in the main bathroom. So just as a, what do you like advise as in terms of, for me as long as I live that I have to use it, but as a reseller, is that something I should look at or the personal preference?
So the question, my opinion on tubs in an ensuite or not, is that, yeah?
Okay.
So the question was my opinion on whether tubs should be still incorporated into an ensuite or not, and if there's another bathtub in the main bathroom. The answer to the question, it's personal choice. It truly is personal choice. It comes down to space, whether you've got space available, whether you've got time available too. You know, it's all well and good to spend from 1,000 to 10,000 on a bath, and you can get baths custom made up at that dollar value if you're not going to use it. The resale factor, I tend to say it's a dream that you're selling. You know, we are very busy. I know I'm very busy. I wish I had time to have a bath, and I don't have a bath. But I still think you get that, it's almost a dream when you walk into the room, or relaxation when you see this bath. I mean, I don't get a chance to do it, but yeah, so it's personal choice. It really is personal choice. I think they can be really nice features and add value to your home, whether you use it or not. Yeah. Yes.
Can I ask your opinion on the kitchen cabinets, going back to kitchens, with a real timber veneer versus a kind of laminate product?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking about this. I like the idea of real wood, but fading over time with light and things like that, and durability. What's your thoughts? You obviously put laminate in that kitchen, which was lovely.
Yeah. So the question was durability over timber veneer or laminate look-alike veneers. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so the timber veneer comes down to how you polish it, and there's a cost associated with that also too. So when you're looking at your timber veneer, you've got to polish front and back and the edges. So you've got a cost to polish that. That's normally around $80 odd a square metre, so you've got front and back cost before you've even bought the veneer. But there's a big cost associated with that also. Those polishes that you use can also, UV can actually affect those over time. Who's seen those Tasmanian oak kitchens that you walk into and they're really super yellow? You know, they're from the polishes that were applied many years ago. There's anti-yellowing agents that you can put in those now. So the durability over them, I mean, obviously a laminate's going to be more durable. It's going to be more economical. But is it going to give that real look feel? And that's the difference. A lot of them have textures in them now. You know, so they sort of touch wood products, so you can feel grain in them. And it comes down to cost. Again, cost and personal choice and whether you can afford it. I've shown what a project can look like without going real wood. The columns over the top are actually real veneer, but the doors at the top was more of a laminate. So I think it really comes down to a budget scenario. And just to think about the UV polishes that can actually fade them. It's like a timber floor that you might see faded in years to come. Yeah.
With the sinks in the kitchen, And bench sinks or sinks with a little small lip on?
So the question was under bench sinks or sinks with a small lip or an inset?
Yeah.
An inset sink?
Insert.
Now I'm a personal believer of our undermount and not the inset. And there's a reason with the inset. So you can have above drop-in sinks with a really minimal lip.
Yeah.
And then you can have inset where they're flush installation, and then you can have undermount. So there's actually 3 types. The inset, I personally don't like it because you try to get a stonemason to get around that sink perfectly and put it into place. And metal expands and contracts. So you've got to leave a 1 millimeter gap around the outside. The only thing you can do if that's filled with silicon, and the silicon tracks all the dirt. So that's why I personally like undermount. Or I would go a drop-in style, where you actually see the lip for that reason. Hot plates are the same. A hot plate installation is the same too. They sell what they call an inset style of installation. But again, the glass expands and contracts, and all we can do is fill the outside with silicon. And what does the silicon do? It attracts all the crumbs and muck and all that sort of stuff. Yes. Any other?
Just those taps on your ensuite, they come from the wall. What are your thoughts on whether they come out from the wall or whether they're on the actual banks themselves?
So the question was my thoughts on whether taps should come out of the wall or out of the bench. Again, I'm probably going to say the same thing. It is personal choice. It also comes down to whether you're having above counter basins or not, or whether you're in your basins that you pick on, whether it actually has tap holes that you can actually melt into the top of the basins or out of the side of the bench. I personally like them out of the wall. I just feel that it's a little bit more classy out of the wall, and it just looks so much nicer. That's my personal thought. Again, it is personal choice. Any other questions? Any other internet Zoom questions? No.
Just with you. Inset sinks, how do they actually attach to the benches?
The inset
Sinks?
So the above counter ones?
You sort of said there are 3 types.
Yes.
The
Yes.
one where you need
Yes. There's clips underneath. So there's actually clips that actually clip those sinks from underneath. Yeah. To actually hold them down in place and the weight. Yeah. A lot of the stonemasons throw them out and weight them and put silicon underneath where it doesn't squeeze out where you can't see it. But in general, they have clips. Yes.
In the flush mount as well.
In all of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you still get that silicon bead with the flush mount.
No, you won't with the flush. Well, it's to undermount you don't, but it's in underneath where you can't see it, so it is still there. The drop-in style is where you can't see it. The inset style is fully around the outside of the edge where you can see it. So there's only one of the options that you can see the silicon. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Any other further questions? Thank you very much to everyone at home also and logging in.
Just one question. You got the top one, it's the one that sits over the cut here.
Yes.
It's got the
Yes.
an inset is what? That's the one that
Yeah.
stone